Hello, hello, and welcome to the show. Thanks so much for hitting play and choosing to spend some time with me today. I know there's a lot of podcasts out there that are popping up around the topic of psychedelics, so it means so much that you're choosing to listen to this one. Lots of new people have been finding their way here lately, so yeah, I just wanted to say hi. If you're new, welcome. There's almost 50 episodes for you to explore and dig into. And yeah, my name's Lana. I'm a regular, normal human being just like you. And I think my entire life I've been searching for a way, a path, answers about how to live my life. And I have finally found my way with psychedelics and ceremony and the plants. And this is my path. And this podcast is a place for me to share what I'm learning along the way. I definitely do not have all the answers. That's why I have guests on the show, but I'm definitely here to grow and learn and make mistakes and be a human being alongside all of you. So today is actually my 32nd birthday, and I'm really touched to be recording this intro for you today because it is a very special episode, and I also have some very exciting news. The podcast just hit 100,000 downloads. This is the best birthday present I could have gotten this year. And I just want to say thank you all so much for supporting the show, listening, leaving a rating and review on Apple and Spotify, and just signaling to me that you have received some value out of this content. I never in my wildest dreams thought that this podcast would end up in the top charts and as one of the top 5 podcasts, but here we are. And yeah, it's been a lot of reflection and refining and just doing some deep thinking on what I want this space to be and who I want to be as a leader of sorts, and the responsibility that I hold as someone who has a podcast like this. So yeah, I want to just say thank you again. And I'm really, really, really grateful for all of you. This is the first birthday in my life that I'm just letting pass by quietly. I don't know what it is, but I just don't feel like I need to make a big deal out of this one. Actually, I do know what it is. I feel like I got a rebirth and everything that I wanted in November when I sat with Iboga, and every day just feels like such a gift since that experience. So I think that's kind of why I'm just letting this one pass by. I'm definitely in a big process right now on my own. So yeah, that does bring me to today's episode though. This is going to be part 2 of my Iboga experience at Iboga Wellness in Costa Rica. I'm so excited to share this with you guys. This was recorded about 2 months after I had the experience. And yeah, it's me recalling my second ceremony and my second half of the retreat. And this is a really cool episode because you guys are actually going to see and hear in real time some insights and lessons integrate on the air. I cry quite a few times in this episode because things actually started unraveling for me in a deeper way as I was sharing about the experience with you guys. The process of integrating Iboga it's almost like easy in a way. Like I just have never had a plant medicine experience where it's been so clear. The path forward has been so clear. And there's just such a clarity around it. And a lot of you have reached out about part 1. So if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, go maybe pause this one, download this one, pause it, and go listen to episode 45 before this one, because this one builds on that. Thank you all so much for your messages and your emails and your reflections. I feel like my vulnerability and openness and sharing about that experience really connected me to you all so much more. I definitely feel a stronger connection to you all after that. And it's been reflected to me more than a few times that I was very generous in what I've shared with my audience. So thank you for making me feel like it's safe to do that and for receiving my openness and vulnerability so beautifully. I do feel a huge sense of responsibility in sharing about Iboga with you all, especially as the audience here is growing. And there's some very important things to note about this medicine before we get into my experience. So I mentioned this before, but Iboga is an extremely, extremely powerful plant medicine that requires a great deal of caution, reverence, and respect to work with. It is not like other psychedelics. Okay. It can cause death if not worked with in the correct way. The dosing is very nuanced and specific, and there are many, many interactions to be careful of. Please, 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 please never ever work with this medicine without a trained Iboga provider. If there's one thing I want you to remember about Iboga, it's that this is not something you want to order off the internet and experience on your own. This is not something that you want to do very little research around and just jump into. The other thing that I want to mention is that everything shared here is based on my own experience. I am not a trained provider. I am not an expert in Iboga. I'm just a humble and new student of this medicine. And if you are considering sitting with Iboga, please speak to a well-trained provider who can answer your questions about your specific situation. I'm going to leave Levi's contact in the show notes if you'd like to get in touch with Iboga Wellness Center. And lastly, I want to speak briefly on the sustainability issues with Iboga. So we've talked about this on the podcast before with Trisha Eastman. It's one of the earlier episodes. It's definitely worth repeating that there are quite serious issues with this medicine connected to poaching, and the supply in the wild in Gabon is decreasing at quite a rapid rate to the point where Gabonese people sometimes don't have access to it. So on that note, it's very important to note that there is not enough Iboga for everyone, and this medicine is a medicine and it is not for everyone. And the people that it is for, it can provide great, great healing, but this is not something you want to do just for the sake of having the experience. So please seriously think about your intention for sitting with this medicine and deeply evaluate if you're being truly called to it and if it's right for you. For me personally, it took me 2 years between receiving the call on December 2020 and actually sitting with it in November 2022. A lot of thinking and feeling into this decision took place. And there are ways that we can support this medicine. So please join me in donating to Blessings of the Forest. They're an organization that supports the safeguarding of both Iboga trees and the Bwiti culture in Gabon. This is something that I'm continuing to educate myself with, and it's a very nuanced and complicated issue, and I am working on getting a guest on the podcast to come talk about some of these sustainability issues with Iboga, so look out for that later this year. And lastly, I feel so much just gratitude in my heart. I want to take a moment to send out some gratitude and appreciation for this medicine. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, firstly, to the Bwiti people who have opened their doors to Westerners and are allowing us to receive the Iboga medicine and to learn about the Bwiti way of living. Thank you to Levi and Iboga Wellness for such a beautiful, safe, and transformational experience where I just felt so held and so safe, which played a huge role in the outcome of this experience, which has been just life-changing. Thank you to the land and to the earth for everything that it provides for us, including this medicine and just its wisdom. And lastly, thank you to all of the people who are involved with holding Iboga and Bwiti in reverence, especially to those who are working to safeguard both the sacred wood and the Bwiti culture. I bow to you. Thank you, Basi. So thank you so much again for being here. And let's get into today's episode and hearing about my second experience with Iboga and some differences between Iboga and ayahuasca at the end of the episode. And I'm also going to get into answering some of your questions. So let's get into it. So we left off on day 4 in the last episode. So day 2 was ceremony. Day 3 was discovery day. And day 4 was an integration day. And what we actually did on day 4 was, as a group, we all went on an excursion. We left the Iboga Wellness property and went to this really beautiful hot springs pool that just completely rejuvenated and refueled the body. It was so peaceful. At this point, everyone was back for the most part. A lot of people were able to start eating again. I personally was still not feeling like I could get food down. I think I had like a snack here or there. Like I think I had like a cookie and maybe some fruit. I ate a little bit at lunch that day while we were at the hot springs, but it was only at dinner on day 4 that I had a full meal. So I actually went 2 days without eating like a full proper meal. And honestly, that's because I couldn't resist. We had taco night on day 4. And it was so good. The food at Iboga Wellness was like low-key a highlight. It was so good. Cynthia is a legend. She just makes the best food ever. And taco night was a highlight. So it was a really nice way to come back into the world of food. So yeah, that's what day 4 was. It was the hot spring pool, rejuvenating and relaxing the body, refueling with food, grounding. We also went on this beautiful walk in what's called the Secret Gardens. There was like the most beautiful exotic tropical flowers I had ever seen in my life. Like they were so psychedelic looking. Saw a beautiful lotus on a lily pad. It was a really, really nice experience and just so beautiful to continue to connect with nature in a deeper way during this retreat. Day 4 was also the day that I turned my phone back on after the ceremony and discovery day. And wow, that was an experience. As soon as I turned my phone on, my eyes adjusted to the digital world. Like, right, I had just spent 2 full days just fully immersed in nature. And looking at my phone was just so overwhelming. It just felt like there was way too much information coming in. And in that moment, I realized how the phone really represented this fake reality and that nothing on it is actually real. So integration was already starting for me. The first thing that I did when I turned my phone on was I just sat down for like 30 minutes and I removed about half of the apps on my phone. And I already felt like, ooh, okay, that feels a lot better. Another thing that I did was, I don't know if you guys remember, but in the first episode, I was talking about how when I was sitting on my bed and just crying about how deeply I have allowed other people to influence me and to shape me and the things that I do in life. I was sitting there and I got really angry at my water bottle because I had all these stickers on my water bottle and I started just like trying to rip the stickers off because to me that represented like me allowing all of these like brands and messages into my conscious awareness and kind of like allowing that to define me. And I couldn't get them off during the discovery day. So I actually sat down at the kitchen table with this like knife and started ripping all the stickers off, and I took them all off. And after I looked at my water bottle, it was just clean and it just felt like a fresh air. And I'm sharing this with you guys because what was going on for me was that I was starting to become so consciously aware of how the things that I allowed into my consciousness contribute to my perspective of the world, to my perspective of my life, and ultimately to my experience of it. So that was like some integration that was already starting to happen. So day 4 was very rejuvenating. So by the time day 5 rolled around, which was ceremony number 2 day, was kind of back in the body, was already starting to integrate. The insights were starting to land. There was time to journal, and you can even connect with Levi or any of the helpers to start making more sense out of the experience. Like the experience itself is one thing, but when you're out of it and you're able to reflect on it and make sense of it, after you've gotten some space from it, like it just keeps coming in waves, and you can start integrating it and really taking on these new insights. So day number 5, I actually got a massage in the afternoon. So they bring massage therapists to the property, and you can get a massage if you'd like. So that kind of just like deepened the physical rejuvenation. And I was really nervous going into the second ceremony, because just thinking back to how intense the first one was, I was like, I don't know if I can handle that again. Like the thought of it being that intense again kind of scared me. Like I was really grateful for the experience, but I was like, I really hope I don't have to go through that again. And I also kind of kept in mind that each experience is so different, and it turned out to be really different. And another thing, before I get into the ceremony, another thing that we did, I forget if it was day 4 or 5, but we got to have a spiritual shower. So this is another traditional Bwiti ceremony. And basically we all went down to the river nearby the property, and Levi gave us a spiritual shower in the river in the Bwiti style, one by one. And it was a really beautiful experience. And the purpose of it, the intention of it, is to clear the lineage of both your mother's and father's side, and to invite in the things that we want in life while releasing the things that are keeping us stuck. I really enjoyed that. So let's get into ceremony number 2. Drastically different from the first ceremony, and this trip report's going to be a lot shorter than the first one. So the way that it started was we sat at the fire again and received more teachings from Levi about the Bwiti way of living. Honestly, this was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole experience of this whole retreat, was just learning about the Bwiti way of living. There's something about it that just deeply resonated with me, and every piece that we got was like, yes, that feels right. That feels right in my heart, and that sits right with me. And it kind of feels like, I know, it kind of just feels like almost like the answers I've been searching for. Like it just made sense of the world for me. So upon receiving the medicine, the first time it wasn't too hard, but the second time I had a really hard time keeping it down. And I felt immediately nauseous. Just sitting around the fire, I was just so nauseated. And I went to the bathroom right away and had quite a big physical purge. And I realized that the medicine was already starting to work on the body already, so different from the first one where I didn't experience too many like physical purging symptoms. I actually didn't last very long at the fire. I tried to last as long as I could because I wanted to just take in the teachings from Levi, but eventually I put my hand up and I was one of the first people to go to my mat. And when I got to the mat, just the nauseating feeling continued, and I went to the bathroom again, and I kind of just sat in the physical discomfort for probably an hour or two. That was all that was really going on for me. Like I couldn't really focus on anything other than the physical discomfort and just be a witness to it and to sit with it. And I know while I recall this information, like one of my coaching clients said to me the other day, like, yeah, listening to your podcast episodes about ayahuasca and Iboga, like I just can't believe the physical discomfort associated with it, and like it just seems so brave to do it. And I don't know, the thing that I would say to that is it's such a small price to pay. Like I remember when I first started working with ayahuasca, I was really, really nervous about the purging because I had only puked a few times in my life. And now it's just like, it's not that it's no big deal. Like it's still uncomfortable, but I kind of accept it because I know that that is the medicine. The purging is the medicine. That's the process of like releasing the physical and mental and emotional toxic energy that is just lodged in our bodies. So just sitting with that discomfort and being a witness to it, I really have that perspective of this is the medicine working, this is the medicine doing its thing, and it will pass. You know, I just need to sit with this. This is the medicine. And eventually I did purge into the bucket. It was really loud. It was really big. It was really energetically charged. And I felt immediately better. And my body was comfortable again. And I began to rest into the experience in a different way. And at this point, Levi came over and did another third eye visualization with me. And this time, same process, taking you out of the body and up into space, to the moon. And in this one, he actually took me to the jungles of Gabon. And I was looking for a female Bwiti shaman. And I actually saw, this was kind of funny, I actually saw a Native American shaman. So looking back, I'm like, I wonder if I was in the wrong place. And yeah, I just kept searching and trying to find this Bwiti shaman. And I really wanted to find her and meet her. But it really felt like I was forcing it. And I kind of came to terms with the fact that the visuals and the journey was not as strong as it was in my first journey. I just really felt like I was trying. And I told Levi that I'm not seeing as much and that there's not many visuals. And he said, that's okay. That's totally okay. And he just left me to rest. And the rest of the night was spent in what I would describe as a meditative state. I had very, very, very few thoughts. There was no questions stirring inside of me. There was no answers. There was no insights. My mind was just like completely empty and at ultimate peace. It was like peace of mind, just space, emptiness, nothingness. I received a little bit of this from my ayahuasca ceremony that I talk about in episode 44, but this felt like a much deeper and pure experience of it. And at one point, I actually was visually able to witness the space in my mind. Like I could perceive my mind as this dark, empty space. It was really cool. And there was a moment when the ego came in and I felt that nothing was happening, right? Quote unquote, nothing is happening. So I asked Levi for more medicine. I said, this is really chill compared to the first one. Can I have more medicine? He gave me more medicine, but he also said that chill is okay. Chill is also good. And I was like, okay, cool. So I just kind of continued to rest in the emptiness and spaciousness that I think is what people who meditate for like a decade desire to reach. Like that's what that spacious place felt like. Like it was just nothingness and emptiness and peace. It's really hard to describe and to put words to. So I hope I'm doing a good job. But yeah, overall, I had more medicine the second night, but my experience was calm and peaceful and non-visionary. And the next day I was speaking to James, one of the helpers, and he said something that really resonated with me. He said, there's these phases to Iboga that are like high, high, higher, 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 sober. And I was like, oh, okay, yes, that I feel like that's what I experienced it because I was just resting in that empty spaciousness and the mind felt just sober and clean and clear and empty. So yeah, it was very different. And looking back, I do believe that the medicine was showing me this like peace and stillness and spaciousness, like what it looks like and feels like, so that I can access it more and so that I can see what true inner peace is. Like it's not making $1 million. It's not like having the luxury home or, having money in the bank or being in the perfect relationship or whatever. All of that stuff that we tell ourselves is going to be the thing that's going to bring us peace. No, the medicine was actually showing me that like peace is that inner stillness. And that is an anchor within that we can always access no matter what is going on around us. So the ego that was saying that nothing was happening was just wrong. It was like everything was happening. I was being shown exactly what I needed to be shown. And there was a part of me that was like, oh, like it wasn't as cool of an experience and it wasn't visionary and like there's not much to report. But that's the thing. There wasn't much to report, which can be the most powerful experience. And it was really showing me that, yeah, looking back, like I said, I've had some space now. I think the medicine was really showing me that like the work that it had done on me, that it really scrubbed me clean mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And it was showing me now this is this like blank slate that I get to be, and I get to decide what to fill that canvas with. And one of my biggest integration pieces is like my word, not my word, but like my intention for 2023 has been deeply informed by this experience. It's to be true to myself, humility and presence. So it's like, how can I fill this empty canvas and this empty space, or call in the things that are really true to myself? Because I feel like the Iboga experience really released me and freed me from, and I'm starting to cry. It really freed me from all of the expectations that I have placed on myself from society, from other people, from wanting to be anything other than myself. And the medicine was like, no, you are this empty, clean, fresh, newborn baby, and you get to just be yourself now. So it was really, really meaningful for me. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that I am crying. Okay, let me take a sip of water to come back. Yeah, I think I just pieced that together right now as I was explaining it to you guys. So yeah, integration just keeps unfolding. Some real like live action integration happening here. So as dawn approached, as the ceremony was coming to an end, I was just, sitting and basking in that peace and spaciousness. I went to sit by the fire again. I wanted to see the sun come up. I wanted to be with the birds and commune with nature. And that I did. And I couldn't help but think like, okay, another beautiful day ahead. Like, okay, wow, we get to live life again today on this earth. Holy fuck. I feel so grateful and lucky. And so we're in day 6 now, the second discovery day. And as I sat there and stared at the fire, I admit that I was trying to recreate the visual experience I had from the first ceremony with the fire. And I just stared and stared and stared, and nothing happened. This time I had absolutely no open eye visuals, like none. And as the day went on, I had no open eye visuals, which again, the first ceremony, open eye visuals all day. So again, I went back to my room. I felt ready to go back to my room, and I could actually walk on my own this time. I didn't need help getting up the stairs. I bounced back really quickly compared to the first ceremony. When I got to my room, James came in to check on me and he said, would you like any fruit? And I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think I can get some down. And he brought me some fruit and nuts. I got it down. And then I laid down and I actually napped. Like I actually was able to close my eyes and enter a sleep state for a little while. I was just like, wow, this is so different. And I got up, I showered. I really felt like I was back a lot quicker. It must have been like sometime in the afternoon. I was like, yeah, I'm good. And there was like a little bit of disappointment, I won't lie, because that first discovery day was just so beautiful. Like I said, it was like the best day of my life. I think it was the best day of my life because it was when my soul returned back to me following that ceremony. So yeah, there was a little bit of like, oh, I guess I'm not going to have the cool like discovery day communing with nature in this really powerful way and open eye visuals. But you know, the experience was what it was, and it was exactly what it needed to be. And yeah, I just kind of like hung out. I really felt open to being around others on this day. I spent time speaking with some of the helpers, some of the other attendees, and kind of walking around the property, and just really carried that peaceful feeling from ceremony into my day. And that night I slept about 10 hours and I woke up again just in ultimate peace. So we're into day 7 now. So this is an 8-day experience, and on day 7, yeah, most people were bounced back. Most people were back in the body, eating, and ready to kind of engage in an activity. So we actually went offsite to a beach. We went to the ocean in Dominical, which is about an hour away, and swimming in the ocean after 2 Iboga ceremonies was so cleansing, so refreshing, and it just really contributed to bringing me back after the ceremonies. That was really nice. We had lunch. I played some frisbee on the beach with someone, and yeah, it was just a really, really beautiful experience. I was reading the book, Iboga, The Root of All Healing. I was just like really in Iboga land at this point and just wanting to know and learn everything I could about this medicine because I felt the transformation so much. Yeah, when we returned back to the property, we did a group integration circle, and everyone was just in such a different place than they were a week ago. It was actually kind of mind-blowing to see. There was a lot of peace and humbleness present in that sharing circle. I did some journaling that day and made a list of changes that I want to make in my life. Felt that this was really important because I really just wanted to capture like the freshness of the experience and like just the place that I was in, and that path forward for me that the medicine showed. And then that night it was actually American Thanksgiving. So Cynthia prepared a Thanksgiving dinner for us. It was so delicious and made with so much love. And yeah, that was a really nice kind of last dinner to have together. And as a group, we got to spend one final night together. And then the next day was departure day. I was very conflicted. Like, I was so sad to be leaving the land and the property and, you know, my new friends and just the portal that is Iboga Wellness Center. I was so sad. But then I was equally excited to start my life. And I say start my life because I really felt like a newborn baby. And reflecting back on my ceremonies, you know, now that I've had some space from them, and I am going to do an episode in a couple of months, just reflecting on the long-term integration and how that's been unfolding, but just some reflections right now. I think that the experience just scrubbed me clean in every way. So I don't know if other people use this term or if I picked it up from someone else, but I just feel like Iboga is a scrubber medicine. Like, it really scrubs you clean. And I use the word scrub because, like, it kind of sometimes feels like it's using that, like, metal scrubber that you use on, like, the really heavy grease on the pan, right? And, like, it does it in, like, a very, again, like, direct and maybe not so gentle way at times. But then what's left after is just, like, this fresh, clean slate. Mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, I have been cleaned and cleansed and reset. Like, I am not at all the same person that I was in November. And that has really been the blessing of this medicine, is that clean slate and returning my soul back to me. And it was just a rebirth unlike I've ever experienced before. And honestly, it felt like an initiation into a new era of my life. And again, I use the word initiation lightly because there are actual Iboga Bwiti initiations that people can have in Gabon. But it felt like an initiation. Like it felt like there's just no going back to the way things were before. There's no going back to the person I was before. My friend who shared her Iboga experience with me, this is the friend that like made me curious about Iboga. She said that, and I really resonate with this. She said that since Iboga, she can just understand truth from not truth. Like there's a resonance to truth that she gets now. And I would definitely say that I feel the same. Like there is an essence and a resonance to truth and to what is true that I just get now. And what I'm learning about this truth is that Iboga shows you the truth. And when you see the truth, you're not confused anymore. You're not confused anymore. And when you're not confused anymore, life is just easier and simpler and lighter and more clear. And all of the things that you think you wanted, you realize like, oh, actually, no, that stuff doesn't actually really matter. And sometimes it's hard to see the truth. And sometimes you have to like really scrub away to see the truth, but it's worth it. And in my experience, seeing the truth was a very beautiful experience, even though it was really hard. It was really beautiful. And it's 2 months later now, and the lessons just continue to unfold. So there it is. That's the second ceremony. Like I said, it was so different. There isn't as much to share because it was very simple, just resting in that peacefulness. And I want to spend the rest of this episode talking about the difference between ayahuasca and Iboga and answering some of your questions. And I want to highlight this difference because a lot of you have done ayahuasca, and I've also talked about ayahuasca a lot on this podcast. So I want to talk about the difference between the two because I feel like I have a good understanding now. So I'm actually going to refer to this guide that Iboga Wellness Center has on their website. I'll link it in the show notes. So I read this guide before I sat with Iboga, and honestly, it was a little bit abstract for me. Like I couldn't definitively understand what the difference was, but now that I've experienced both, I can really conceptualize and understand the difference, and I would agree with everything that is in this guide that I'm going to share with you guys. So both ayahuasca and Iboga are beautiful, powerful master plant teachers that can, in different ways, show us what we need to see, help us make progress in life, and, you know, release the shit inside of us. They're both purgatory in essence, so they can both really help with that. But there are some key differences to point out. So obviously Iboga is African and ayahuasca is South American. And then chemically speaking, Iboga is an alkaloid and ayahuasca is DMT. So ayahuasca is feminine in energy. Iboga, a lot of people say it's masculine, but it's actually both. It's a masculine and a feminine energy. It's masculine in the sense that it's very direct, it's very intense, but it's feminine because it's actually also very gentle. So Iboga is more of an internal journey and ayahuasca is more of an external journey. And they talk about this in the guide. So if we actually look at how both Iboga and ayahuasca grow in the jungle, that's actually how they work with us as well. So ayahuasca is a vine and a tree. So both the vine and the leaves, the chacruna leaves, like they grow outwards, right? So ayahuasca is an outward journey. It's very ethereal. It's very like universal energy and can kind of like show us truths beyond this realm, whereas Iboga is a bush. And the part of the medicine that's actually used is the root bark, right? So the root grows downwards and inwards into the earth. So Iboga is a very internal journey, and it's more of an experience of going deeper within, whereas ayahuasca is an experience of going farther out. And it's more of a grounded energy as opposed to a ethereal universal energy. So Iboga, earth-based energy, ayahuasca, universal energy. So Iboga relates to the truths in this life, whereas ayahuasca relates more to cosmic and universal truths. With Iboga, the insights are very integratable and they relate to what has happened in our life. And the things that we can do to move forward. Whereas with ayahuasca, it's sometimes very confusing and difficult to integrate because we're getting a lot of information that is outside of this realm, and it relates to cosmic truth and knowledge that doesn't always easily translate into the earth-based frequency or reality. So yeah, I would definitely agree with this guy that those are the differences in my experience. So in terms of the experience, and the physical differences, so there's generally vomiting with Iboga, but with ayahuasca, it's much more likely. With Iboga, the peak effects last 12 to 18 hours, and the whole experience itself can last 24 to 30. Whereas with ayahuasca, the peak effects last 6 to 8 hours, and then once that's over, the experience is over much sooner. With Iboga, there's no required diet changes prior to ceremony. With ayahuasca, there's a strict dieta to be followed. With Iboga, it resets the mind's conditioned beliefs, patterns, addictions, self-sabotaging behaviors, views, and judgments, whereas ayahuasca attunes us to the universal love energy. It reattunes the heart to universal love. And I would so agree with that, because ayahuasca definitely healed my heart. And I feel like Iboga healed my mind. So they go so well together. With Iboga, visually, sometimes the visuals do not occur, and when they do, they're generally closed-eyed, commonly appearing as a movie scene where we recognize events being played out in the mind's eye, and we may depict scenes and people we recognize and can relate to. And then with ayahuasca, visuals are both open eye and closed eye and extend beyond this world or dimension, involving vivid sacred geometry, otherworldly experiences, and encounters. Yeah, I had both open and closed eye visuals with Iboga, so I don't know how common that is. And then the physical reaction to Iboga is introspective, meditative, silent, still, and immobile. You're much more comatose and like on your mat. With Iboga and with ayahuasca, the medicine is expressive, vocal, and mobile. There can be like a lot of physical purging. There can be the desire to dance and move. So yeah, I think that kind of helps explain the differences. They're both very beautiful. It says here in this guide, the existence of ayahuasca and Iboga is in perfect balance. The nature of duality, which is the law of existence, is fully expressed through the master teachers. Discovering the contrast of personal truth and cosmic truth is the ultimate reality. Taming the mind and living through the heart, operating harmoniously in both the masculine and feminine, holding the knowledge of connection to all things universal while mastering the art of living here and now on earth. The masters are our gifts available to everyone, just waiting to be opened. So thank you, Iboga Wellness, for this guide. I really, really resonate with it, having experienced both medicines. And for me, it's not a matter of like ayahuasca or Iboga. It's a matter of like which one can support me based on what I need right now. So ayahuasca was very supportive to me while I was healing my heart, healing up my heartbreak, and honestly healing a lifetime of heartbreak and disappointment. And then I really became ready to heal the mind and to work with the mind. And another kind of way that I would differentiate the two is I feel like ayahuasca is like the world's best therapist, and I feel like Iboga is the world's best life coach. That's just my perspective. I don't know if people would agree with me, but that's kind of like the energy that I get from the two. To borrow from Sonia, one of the helpers, she's going to come on the podcast later, but she said this on her Instagram about the difference, and I would really agree. Ayahuasca got me far, but Iboga took me to the finish line, which I think also relates to like therapy got me far, but coaching and like really integrating and taking action took me to the finish line. So a few things have happened in my life post Iboga that kind of threw me off my orbit, and I was really able to like hold myself through it like I've never held myself before, and I stayed anchored within myself instead of allowing it to just like totally take me and drown in it, right? I can see that anchor within myself is just so strong. And right now I'm really just focused on being present to all of life, to the fullness of life, to the fullness of the human experience. Like, now that I'm here on earth and so happy to be here on earth and not wanting to be anywhere else but here and not wanting to be anyone else but me, there's this openness that has naturally occurred to all of it and to all of life and even the difficult emotions. You know, I'm finding myself, instead of wanting to change the difficult emotions and to change my state, just allowing myself to be a witness through it all and just to feel it all. And that is the thing that allows it to move and that allows life to flow from one experience to the next. It's been so beautiful. I didn't even know that this is where I was heading, and it's just really nice to be here. It's so different than what I thought it would be like. So now I want to get into some Q&As from you guys. So let's see here. So my friend Melanie asks, what are the things you love about Iboga? I love that it's so clear and direct. I love that it's so ancient and wise. And I love that it has the Bwiti tradition behind it. This is just such an important part of working with this medicine. And it gives you a framework to work with in your life outside of ceremony. And I love that the Bwiti way has been informed by Iboga. And I love that Iboga is about truth and seeing the truth and seeing personal truth, and that it's so grounding and earthy. There's so many things I love. So I'll leave it there. She also said, what did Iboga do for you that other modalities weren't able to do for you? I feel like I'm being really repetitive, but it showed me the truth and it showed me how to treat myself. And it showed me that there's nowhere else I'm supposed to be and that there's no one else I'm supposed to be. And I feel that it reset my brain and created space in the brain. Like, the voice in my head has changed. There's a lot less clutter in my brain. The voice in my head is much kinder. It's less loud. It's less muddy. And it also showed me, like, really practically how to live life and what changes to make in my life. It's very integratable. And then she also asked, how did Iboga help you connect more deeply to yourself? I think the soul retrieval journey that Levi took me on brought my soul back home. And it's hard to explain, but it just helped me see the truth that all the negative stuff about myself that I've ever thought or felt are just not real. And they don't get to be real anymore, and they don't get to be stories anymore. And it's just allowed me to see myself as I am. And it also connected me more deeply to nature and the earth, which in a way connected me more deeply to myself, because I was able to see myself not separate from nature, but as a part of nature. I'm getting emotional right now because I've intellectually understood that concept before, and I've heard Terence McKenna talk about this and other psychedelic thought leaders talk about this idea of we're not separate from nature. But Iboga really allowed me to feel and see and integrate that, and as a result of going from just knowing to, or going from just understanding it to knowing it deeply within me and integrating it, I'm just living my life differently. And then Yasna Clara asked how to prepare for this kind of experience. Should you be an experienced psychonaut? I think whatever provider you decide to work with will guide you through the preparation process. I don't know if I'm necessarily the right person to talk about how to properly prepare. Levi did an incredible job of helping me to prepare with the writing exercises and just putting me at ease and being able to answer any of my questions. I will say that I think the mental preparation is the heavy lift here, because you really have to prepare yourself for life to not be the same after, and truly be open to that without fear. And there's a trust with the medicine that can be developed before you even have the medicine. And by that, I mean trusting that your calling to this medicine is pure and that you're being called for a reason and that the medicine is going to bless you and make your life better. I think that plays a huge role in the outcome. I would say do not take this decision lightly, as I spoke to in the beginning of this episode. I'd say be absolutely certain that you're doing this with a powerful intention and that it's coming from your heart, and just prepare for your life and yourself to change for the better. That's like a lot of us have these fears of success or fears of being happy because it's not the default and it's not something that we feel is even possible for ourselves. Like really removing the resistance to the possibility of life actually being really good after. Maya says, would you do it again? Yes, I would. I really would. I don't think that my work with Iboga is done. Levi said that about 90% of people or something like that, it's like a one and done thing. And while I feel like I'm not grasping for another experience and I'm not like deeply desiring one, it's more so coming from this place of like, I just love this medicine so much and I want to continue learning from it and I want to continue being a student of it. And the best way to do that is to sit with it. So we'll see what happens in the future. I'm definitely taking a break from all plant medicines for at least 3 months. But yeah, I think I will definitely be meeting Iboga again because I really, really love it. So, okay, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that it has been useful and helpful. It's been such a pleasure, such a joy, such an honor to share this experience with you guys. The reception for part 1 was incredible. I think it's been the most downloaded episode of all time in terms of like the download rates for the first 7 days, which is like the statistic that we use in the podcasting world, the number of downloads in the first 7 days. And I've had so many of you reach out and thank me for sharing my experience and just hearing you guys like kind of open up to Iboga and learn about it. It just means so much to me. And I hope that you can join me in just holding this medicine in a very sacred and like honorary light. It is definitely one that deserves a lot of respect. It's here to just help humanity so much and to show us how to live here on earth. Getting emotional again. It just has so much to offer and I'm so grateful for it. So I'm going to leave this episode here. And I will be checking in with you guys about my Iboga journey in a couple of months. If you have any questions that you want me to answer, feel free to email or DM me. But yeah, I'm going to be giving like an integration update. And then I'm also going to be having Levi back on in sometime in the spring. So you can look forward to that. If you have any Iboga specific questions that you want me to ask him, please also send me those questions and I would be happy to ask him. So with that, I will leave you here. Basi, I love you all. Thank you for receiving this and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.